Hi everybody, Mike Beer here. Sunday up at Woodbine. They're going to run the third and final leg of the Canadian Triple Crown. The Breeders' Stakes goes as race number 9, $400,000 purse. It is for 3-year-olds. Foaled in Canada. The race is for a mile and a half on the turf course. Again, those 3 legs of the Canadian Triple Crown all run on different surfaces. This one on the turf. It is also the longest race of the 3 at the 12 furlongs. A field of 9 3-year-olds have entered. We do have one of the winners of the prior legs of this Canadian Triple Crown. The number 8, Duke of Love, just won the Prince of Wales Stakes. That was the dirt portion of the Canadian Triple Crown at Fort Erie, middle of last month. That was an 87 buyer speed figure for Duke of Love winning that race. It was his first ever start on dirt. He's a pretty talented horse. He's run, okay. I guess he's run okay on turf in the past. His best performances up until the Prince of Wales Stakes came on synthetic, and he was unlucky in a couple of those races. Got the job done last time at a relatively short price. Now they're going to try turf with this horse. They're going to try to stretch him all the way out. The distance is a very big question for all 9 of these 3-year-olds. None of them have ever been this far. The surface is also a big question for most of them. Very few of these horses have even run on turf before. 4 of these horses have never run on turf, and you're just not going to find a lot of wins on this surface among the 9 entrants in this Breeders' Stakes. So let's see how it all shakes out. The Timeform US Pace Projector, as you can see there, they have a couple of horses drawn towards the outside up front. The number 7, Dancing with the Nile, that'd be a good spot for him, I think, to go forward in this race. He does have some of the better turf form in this field. He's also got plenty of speed. I suspect they will try to use it in here. The Pace Projector doesn't give an advantage to any particular running style in here, and no advantage to front runners, no advantage to closers. But we'll see, how contested this pace gets. Duke of Love is also projected to be up there close to the pace in this race, which has been his running style for the most part throughout his career, and he certainly was up close in that Prince of Wales Stakes last time on a muddy main track. So we'll see if they go forward with him. But trips, maybe will be pretty important here. I think more than anything else, though, this race just comes down to who handles the distance the best, and the mile and a half is the big question. Number 1 is Makaza, a horse who does have, some turf form anyways. Most recent start came in the Toronto Cup. That was a flat mile on the turf, and it was the best buyer speed figure of Makaza's career there, coming in with an 83 buyer speed figure, getting beat less than a length in that race. He was first-time blinkers in there. He was a very big price in that race, and he did run pretty well. I think if you go back and check out the replay of that race, overall his trip was a very good one, and he was clear in the stretch with a real shot to win that race. He did his very best with that trip, and he just got out finished from behind by a horse who came from last to first. That was a closer's race. That's the only knock I really have on Makaza. While it looks like he improved in that first turf start, he did have the run of the race there, a race that really seemed like it was falling apart at the end, and the winner came from last to win it, and this horse also came from well off it to finish a close 4th. He ran fine in there. I think he's going to have to run a little bit better than that, but that's certainly possible for this horse in this race. He had won 3 consecutive races on the all-weather surface, spanning the 2- and 3-year-old campaigns. Number 2 is Gaston, who is another horse who has good turf form, and in fact, he's the only horse in this field with a prior win on the turf. This horse has recently switched surfaces and stretched out in distance, and his form has improved with those 2 changes. 2 starts back against maidens, going a mile on the grass. He came up short in that race. I thought he ran pretty well in there, though. Made a 4-wide move on the turn, fought his way to a very short, brief lead in the stretch, and then got out finished by a horse rallying up the inside. He ran pretty well in there, though, to be second. It was a step in the right direction. He came back for his next start towards the end of August with this performance rate. We'll take a look at Gaston's maiden win, a mile and a 16th over this Woodbine turf course. Just got a very, very good trip in this race, sitting right in behind the leaders, waiting for room through the stretch. You see how game he is there to drive through between horses at the 8th pole, and he's just edging away at the end. A good performance, 79 buyer speed figure. Suppose that this is a horse who could handle the added distance in here, but he's still going to have to do that. I think he's a very fair price on the morning line at 10 to 1, if only because, he's well connected and he's got the turf wind that all 8 of his rivals lack at this point. Number 3 is Hall of Dreams. He's 3 to 1 on the morning line. I think he's one of the major players in this race. He's never run on the turf before. There's also maybe a little bit of a flaw in his overall sort of running lines, because he's 1 for 8 in his career with 5 seconds, and that's never a good thing for a horse. But listen, he's kept really good company along the way. The distance does not seem like it's going to be any problem for him. He's by Lemon Drop Kid. While he's never run on turf before, he's certainly bred to handle the surface switches. Dam is a sister to a horse named Hollinger, who was a multiple stakes winner on the grass. He was grade 1, 2, and 3 placed on the turf in his career. She's also a sister to a horse named Rinaldi, who's a grade 3 winner on the grass in New York. Plenty of turf in his pedigree to handle the surface switch. You feel like the distance isn't going to be a problem for him. He's going to have to find a way to get over the hump after finishing a distant second to the great filly Moira in the Queen's Plate the last time we saw this horse. I think he's going to handle the turf just fine. Easy to make a case for in here. If he's the favorite, which I think is certainly possible. I don't know that I would take him, but he's a horse I think you have to take seriously in this race. Ice Road is the 4. I don't know what to say about him. They tried him in the Prince of Wales on dirt last time. I guess, all in all, it wasn't a bad performance, finishing a distant third at 40-1 with a new buyer top of 78. He's never run on the turf before. Prior to that Prince of Wales last time, he had never run a race that, makes him all that competitive. In here, we'll see if he can take a step forward, switching to turf and stretching all the way out. Shamateur is the number 5. This horse is 1 for 10 on the way into this race. They did run him in the Queen's Plate 2 starts back. He was nowhere in that race at a very big price. He's going to be a very big price in here as he returns to turf, where he's 0 for 3 in his prior starts on the surface in his career. The number 6 is Collaborative, another horse, big price on the morning line. He's a maiden on the way in. This will be his turf debut. They did run him in the Prince of Wales last time in his dirt debut, stretching him out to 1 mile and 3/16. He was really no factor in that race at nearly 50-1. He does have some speed. I suppose I could go forward with him in here, but it's hard to make a case for him being a major contender in here. He's going to be a big price if you like him. Dancing in Denial is the 7. I think this horse, even though he's never won a race on the grass before, I think this is the right surface to run this horse on. I think he is a better horse on the turf. He has a turf pedigree. And listen, his races on the all-weather his stakes company are fine. He's run very well on that surface as well. But his turf races are also good. They came off the layoff with him this year for his 3-year-old debut, going 1 mile and 1/16 in an open allowance race. He wound up coming up short in that race, but he actually ran really well that day. That race was run at a very strong pace, and this horse was keeping up after that pace the entire way. He got himself really into contention through the stretch there. He just got outfinished late by a couple of horses who sat way back and made late runs. This horse ran really, really well the last time he was on turf. Since then, they've run him in the plate trial, where he was part of the pace and ran okay, although he did finish behind a couple of these same rivals. And then they ran him in the Queen's Plate in his most recent start. He ran fine in there. He was only 5th at a big price in that race, but it's not like it was a terrible performance. It was another step sort of in the right direction for this horse, and I like him coming back to turf, and I also like his running style for this race. As we saw in that Pace Projector earlier, he's supposed to be up close. If he can get the distance, which is a big question, but that's a big question for all of them, and I'd be happy to take my chances with Dancing in Denial if he can get forward in here, especially at that 8-1 morning line. Duke of Love, he's your 2-1 morning line favorite. He won the second leg of this Canadian Triple Crown, most recently in the Prince of Wales. It felt like that was a great race to have him in, though, because he has sort of more of a dirt pedigree. So you felt like maybe he would handle the switch to dirt, and he did. He kept right up close to the pace. He prevailed at 5-2 odds. I thought he ran fine in there, 87 buyer. His form on synthetic prior to that was also very good. I have really no knocks on him. I guess the one question I do have does concern the turf. They ran him on turf, and you don't want to be too hard on him for that only turf start. It was his second career start right off of his maiden win back in December as a 2-year-old. He didn't run that well that day, but maybe there's just reason to not really hold it against him, because he's clearly improved since then, and they're going to give him another shot back on turf. If he handles the surface switch, he's supposed to be really tough in here. I just didn't really want to bet him if he is indeed the favorite at post time. The number 9, Sir for Sure. He's another one making his turf debut, and he's got a little bit more turf pedigree than some of the others making this surface switch, though, and his overall form is fine. He lost his rider around that opening turn there in the Prince of Wales last time. Put a line through that race. His Queen's Plate was okay. I thought his trip was pretty good in that race. He was never going to beat Moira in there. He was really no match for Hall of Dreams for second, but he ran fine in that race. He was, clearly third best in that race. Prior to that, he won the plate trial, and while he did defeat a couple of these rivals in that race, including Duke of Love, that's a race that's worth going back watching. Sir for Sure got a really good trip in that race. Duke of Love did not. The surface switch obviously makes a little bit of a difference here, as does the distance, and it feels like maybe Surfer Sure could be more suited to the turf in this spot. I could see using him in here, but I kind of, more than anything else, when it came right down to it, I just kind of wanted to lean against the two short prices drawn towards the outside and maybe look for some alternatives. My alternative, as you can see from the picks right here, my alternative is the number 7, Dancing in Denial. I like this horse switching back to turf. I think this is his surface, and I like his running style for this race. I'm just hoping he's forwardly placed in here, and maybe they just try to wire this field and see if he can last the 1.5 miles. I put Hall of Dreams second. I think he is going to get the distance, and he is bred for turf. I just didn't know how short a price I really wanted on him. I went 7-3 in Sunday's Breeders' Stakes up at Woodbine. It's race number 9 on Sunday, the final leg of that Canadian Triple Crown for the 3-year-olds. The approximate post time, 5:38 Eastern Time. Good luck.